In Prima Secundae, question 55, St. Thomas begins a long and immensely important treatise on virtues. He's one of the great practitioners of virtue ethics, which Alistair MacIntyre has sought to revive in recent times, prompted in part by Elizabeth Anscombe's famous paper on modern moral philosophy. Though it's worth remembering that both for Aristotle and for St. Thomas Aquinas, the starting point of ethics, which includes politics, is not in fact virtue but something higher or deeper, the innate drive towards eudaimonia, happiness, fulfilment, flourishing, which is a cooperative drive and effort. For our pursuit of happiness, fulfilment, flourishing, we need virtues, virtutes in Latin, virtus in Latin, arete in Greek, really means, in the Greek case, an excellence of mind or character. Virtus is perhaps best translated as a strength of mind or character. And that gives us immediately, I think, a slightly different perspective on the importance and value of virtue. It's not something restrictive, but something enlarging and enabling. When I say strength of character, I don't mean character in the sense of our personal chemistry, but rather the kind of person we have made ourselves, the kind of person we have become. Often it will turn out with a huge amount of help from others and from God. There's a diagram you'll be seeing now on the screen of how in any living thing there is a nature, a basic way of being, which, so to speak, deploys itself, unfolds itself into various powers, potentialities, faculties, abilities, and these enable various kinds of act to be performed, and the acts are meant to achieve a kind of fulfilment and well-being that fits the nature you have. The cat is fulfilled, and indeed filled full, in catching mice, or maybe wheedling food out of the neighbour. We are fulfilled even in doing Thomistic philosophy and theology. And as we noted earlier, many human powers, many human abilities are open-ended. We need to channel them or facilitate them by building up appropriate habits, dispositions, so that we can do something fulfilling by second nature. So a virtue is basically a good disposition in some faculty of soul. The faculty, the ability, is moulded, shaped, facilitated by a virtue so that it can issue in good acts, the right kind of acts, which lead to a fulfilment which matches and enhances our human nature. They are empowering and humanizing. We are able to do, by second nature, so to speak, what really suits us as human beings. I said that a virtue can be a strength of mind, so it's worth noting that for St. Thomas, following Aristotle, there are 5 strengths of mind which enable us to use our minds well. There's intellectus, Aristotle's nous, a kind of insight into basic first principles that must operate in our thinking. There is scientia, episteme, science if you like, organised bodies of knowledge by which we can understand the world and how it works. There is sapientia, wisdom, Sophia in Greek, and it's worth noting that all the kinds of wisdom that St. Thomas recognises are a kind of overarching perspective. You have a sense of the shape of the whole, but there's a kind of worldly wisdom that St. James criticises, where you have a warped perspective on things. Philosophy is a form of wisdom. You get a sense of how all things hold together. Theology, or sacred teaching, gives you an even higher overarching perspective, where you see how everything comes from God and finds its goal in God. And then there is the wisdom from above, which is the gift of the Holy Spirit, by which we share God's own perspective on life, the universe, and everything. There's also the intellectual virtue, a practical intellectual virtue of ars, art or craft, techne in Greek, knowing how to make something. Catering, for example, or engineering. And then there is prudentia, prudence, phronesis, knowing how to live. And we will look at that again in a bit later in this series of videos because it's so important. And then in our next video we will look at the moral virtues, strengths of character.